Now those were some open position major chords. Now we're going to talk about open position minor chords. Now the difference between major and minor, quite simply put, is the third degree. If we take the third degree in the middle of those chords and we lower it 1/2 step or 1 fret, we wind up with a minor chord. For example, do you remember that major scale that we played? C? And we wind up with 1, 3, and 5. And we play that and we have a major chord. If we were to take the third degree, which is the E, and we just lower it 1/2 step, which is 1 fret on the guitar, and we played 1, flat 3, and 5, we would wind up with a C minor chord. This was C major, and this is C minor. The major is described as having a happy sound, and the minor is often described as having a sad sound. Major and minor. And the only difference is that 1/2 step. Now in the same way we had some very simple open position major chords, we have some very easy open position minor chords. And the formula is exactly the same. It's 1, 3, and 5, but we flat the third degree. We lower it by 1/2 step or 1 fret. One of the easiest chords, open position minor chords, is the A minor chord that we learned in the first lesson. This is an A minor open position chord. Now if we start from the root on the 5th string, we have A, which is 1. We have the E, which is 5. We double the root on the 3rd string, 2nd fret, with another A. And we have a C natural, which is the flat 3rd. And then we have the E on top, which is our 5. Now if you remember, our A major chord sounded like this. That C sharp, which is the 3rd, we lower a 1/2 step and we wind up with an A minor chord. Open position chords allow you to use the open strings as part of the chord. And we can double the 5th, which is the E, on the 6th string as an open string. It's a full, rich sound. That's an A minor open position chord. We can do the same thing for E minor. We start off with the root. We have the 5th, which is the B, on the 5th string, 2nd fret. We double the root on the 3rd string, 2nd fret. And we have a flat 3rd with the G open string, 3rd string. 5, which is our B open string. And then we have the root again doubled at the top. So we wind up with an E minor open position chord. Now if you remember, when we played our E major chord, this was our E major chord. The G sharp was the 3rd in the E major chord. For the E minor, we lower the 3rd by a 1/2 step. So we get a flatted 3rd, and we have an E minor chord. We can do the same thing for a D minor chord. Start off with the D, which is the root. We have the A, 5, double the D again, and then we have an F natural for the flatted third. Now again, if you remember, when we played our D major chord, we had an F sharp. That was our natural 3. For the minor chord, we flat the third, and we wind up with a D minor open position chord. So those are some open position minor chords. You can practice those. Just get used to changing between chords. You can try comparing the sound of the major to the minor. A major, A minor. E major, E minor. And practice changing in between chords so that your fingers can get used to making those changes. Those were some open position major and minor chords. Now, even with that smaller selection of chords, you'd be surprised to see the number of tunes that you can play. There are many tunes that we know and love that only have 2 or 3 chords in them. Now I'm going to talk about a device called a capo. Many of those open position chords are not what we call movable. So you couldn't take, for example, your A major and then all of a sudden move it up to the 5th fret and play the same thing and use the open strings. What a capo does is effectively moves the nut and the 1st fret to a different place on the fretboard. So here I have a pretty standard capo. If I were to place this on the 3rd fret, I can play some of the open position shapes that I played when I didn't have the capo, and I can play some of the open position chords. Now keep in mind that the chords, when you use the capo, even though they have the same shape, now have a completely different root and therefore a completely different name. So you have to be aware of where the root is in the chord so that you can know the names of the chords that you're playing. Now, there are ways to play other chords, of course, in different places on the neck. There's a method that we can talk about in the next section where we can actually use our first finger effectively as a capo, and that allows us to play some of the shapes in a movable fashion. That's called a bar technique, and we'll talk about that in the next section.